Hey y'all, I asked AI something very interesting and I got an interesting answer. So look at this real quick. It says, what day, this is what I asked AI, what day is the seal of God according to the Bible? And so I asked the Bible, not according to a certain book of the Bible, just the Bible. It says, according to the Bible, the seventh day Sabbath, which is is Saturday, is often associated with the seal of God. It is a day of rest and worship that God commanded his people to observe as a sign of their covenant relationship with him. The Sabbath serves as a reminder of God's creation and his authority over all things. It is important to study the scriptures, particularly in the context of the Ten Commandments and the teachings of Jesus, to gain a deeper understanding of the significance of the Sabbath of rest. So, which is very interesting because look at this here in Ezekiel chapter 20, verse 20. And I like to think about that with Ezekiel chapter 20, verse 20, 2020 vision. That's how I like to think about it. So this is where you get 2020 vision. It says, and hallow my Sabbath in verse 20, hallow my Sabbaths, and they shall be a sign between me and you, that ye may know that I am the Lord your God. Notice what it says that the sign is in Hebrew. In Hebrew, the sign is oath. So we know the first definition, it says a sign, a signal, a distinguishing what? Mark. A distinguishing mark. Doesn't God put a mark on the foreheads? Doesn't he write the a name of the Father on the foreheads according to Revelation chapter 14 and verse 1? Does he not put a mark? And this in the Hebrew shows that this is a mark. The Sabbaths are a sign or a mark. Notice what it says in Ezekiel chapter 9. Ezekiel chapter 9 and looking at verse 1. Ezekiel chapter 9 and verse 1. Notice what it says here. He says, it says in verse 1, he cried also in my ears with a loud voice, saying, cause them that have charge over the city to draw near, even every man with his destroying weapon in his hand. And behold, 6 men came from the way of the higher gate, which lieth towards the north, and every man a slaughter weapon in his hand. One man among them was clothed with linen, and with an inkhorns, writer's inkhorns, the writer's inkhorn by his side, and they went in and stood beside the brazen altar. And the glory of the God of Israel was gone up from the cherub, whereupon he was, to the threshold of the house. And he called to the man and clothed with linen, which had the writer's inkhorn by his side. And the Lord said unto him, go through the midst of the city, through the midst of Jerusalem, and set a mark upon the foreheads of the men that sigh and cry for the abominations that are done in the midst thereof. So what did they set? A mark upon the foreheads. Ezekiel chapter 20, this is the same book. Ezekiel chapter 20 verse 20 says the mark is the Sabbath. And what happens when they don't have the mark? And it says, and to the others he said, in mine hearing, go ye after him through the city and smite. Let not your eye spare, neither have pity. Slay utterly, young and old, both maids and little children and women, but come not near any man upon whom is the mark. And begin at my sanctuary, that they begin at the ancient men which were before the house. So we see that this has happened in time, in history, in Ezekiel, and this is prophetic what is going to happen in Revelations. In Revelations, there is Revelations chapter 14. Let's go there. Revelations chapter 14 shows that there's going to be something written in the forehead of the people of God. Revelations 14 in verse 1, and I looked, and lo, a lamb stood on Mount Sion, and with him 144,000, having his father's name written in their foreheads. Well, we see that the Sabbath, if you look at the word Sabbath, inside the word Sabbath says Abba, which means Father. So that name of the Father that is written in the foreheads, that mark, is the Sabbath. But if you notice, you go to Revelation chapter 13, right before the mark of God, there's the mark of the beast. It says in verse 15, and he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive the mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. Here is wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. So we have the mark of the beast. Then in Revelation chapter in the next Revelation chapter 14, we have the mark of God. Now let's go back to Ezekiel. Notice what it says in Ezekiel when we go back. Ezekiel chapter 9. Ezekiel chapter 9, we see there's the mark of God. The mark is put in the person, the people who sigh and cry for the abomination, as it says in verse 4. But just as we see Revelation chapter 13 being the mark of the beast, and then Revelation chapter 14 being the mark of God, we also see Ezekiel chapter 8 as the mark of the beast. It's clear, it's so clear. It says, let's start in verse 15. It says, and then said he unto me, hast thou seen this, O son of man? Turn thee yet again, and thou shalt see greater abominations than these. And he brought me into the inner court of the Lord's house, and behold, at the door of the temple of the Lord, between the porch and the altar, were about 25 men, with their backs toward the temple of the Lord, and their faces towards the east, and they worshiped the sun toward the east. That was the last abomination that happened before God puts a mark on his people. His mark on his people. So just like in Revelation chapter 13, there was a mark of the beast, that last abomination before God puts the Father's name written in the forehead of the people. We can see here in the same thing in Ezekiel. But the mark, or this abomination, that God says enough, and says, now I need to mark my people because I need to go ahead and just destroy all those people who are doing these abominations, is worshiping the sun. Worshiping the sun. So do you think that the mark of the beast has something to do with worshiping the sun? If the mark of God has something to do with worshiping God on the Sabbath, according to Ezekiel chapter 20 verse 20, which coincides with Revelation chapter 14 verse 1, the Sabbath, Abba being in the Sabbath, being the mark of the oath on their foreheads, Then, do we not understand that Satan likes to counterfeit and copycat God, but he can't do exactly what God does? He has to change it a little bit in order for it to be seen or shown that they're not worshiping God, they're worshiping Satan, right? So, what day is close to Saturday, which AI just admitted, just confirmed is the Sabbath? What day is close? Sunday. Sunday is close. Wait a minute. Sunday, sun worship? Sun worship? It is so clear. It is so clear. It is so clear. Hopefully it's just so clear to you. I'm going to pray in the name of Jesus that if you don't understand, put it in the comments and just we could do a whole Bible study. We can get on Zoom, whatever you want to do. Just, if you don't understand, this doesn't make complete sense to you, let me know. Show me some verses, whatever. And let's have a conversation. But this is so clear to me. We're so close to the end. We're so close to Jesus Christ coming back. Every day that passes is closer to Jesus. We don't know when, the day or the time of the hour. We don't know, but we know that we're getting closer because we can see the signs. And Jesus says, when we see the signs, look up, for your redemption draweth nigh. By God's grace, be blessed in the name of Jesus, brothers and sisters.